hear me? Okay. Mike from over at the NRCC. I called him about Star Parker and some other candidates that were running. Charles Lawler, who was running against Steny Hoyer in Maryland. Steny Hoyer is the second most senior Democrat in the House, and we had a chance to get rid of him. Charles Lawler won all of Southern Maryland and lost PG County, where the black vote was. When I talked to Mike about this at the NRCC, he told me that they were not going to put any money or resources into minority outreach until at least 2016. So that meant two things. Number one, they had basically conceded the election to Obama, and number two, they had conceded the black vote, when this is the best opportunity we have ever had in a generation. Black people are frustrated, they're angry, and they're talking about it amongst themselves because they're too scared to actually say that in public, because in Maryland in 2008, you could get beat up for talking bad about Obama. It was not the type of atmosphere for people to speak out. But now more and more people are speaking out. Testing. More and more people are speaking out, and they're angry, and they want to talk about the fact that food prices are double, that gas prices are double, that the unemployment rate for young blacks is at 44%, and that we're fighting with illegal aliens for jobs, resources, and in our schools. But no one is actually out there doing it. This is our opportunity, and I'm not talking about just door knocking. We have an opportunity to go out there through events, through trusted messengers, and other folks that will kind of seg our way into these communities. But we've got to do it, because if we're going to take back America, we have to take back every single block of America. We have to go out there. Thank you. I call them liberal fallout zones. And the reason why I call them that is because if you go into these communities like Detroit and certain parts of D.C., it looks like somebody dropped a bomb there and left. And that's what 40 years of social programs will get you. Imagine the person who gets the nomination is able to say with confidence, you know, we have done more in these communities than 40 years of social program. How powerful of a message is that when Obama, all he has is the race card. And when he gets desperate, that's all he's going to be able to use, because that's what they did with Obamacare. That's what they're doing with the jobs. Every time they get to the point where they can't control the narrative anymore, they scream racism and wait for the fallout. And then after we finish defending ourselves and saying we're not racist, they've distracted people enough to go on to the next initiative. So are we going to fall for the same old stuff over and over again? Or are we going to get out there and change this narrative, to take the race card out of their hands and tear it up? And the only way to do that is by our actions. We can't just keep screaming we're racist and we're not racist and we don't do anything to show that, because no matter what, that's the only paintbrush they have. But if we have this, and this happened in Houston, Texas, so don't think that it can't happen. When we were out there, when I was working with True the Vote, I got to see it firsthand. I went up there to speak last year, right after, like maybe 2 days after my car accident. I shouldn't even have been out of bed, but I called Catherine to tell her that I wasn't coming, and I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth. Something told me to go. So she said, well, you're not coming? I said, well, that's why I was calling you, but I think I'm going to come. So I took a bus to Philly, because they canceled my event in Philly, but I was flying out of there to Houston, so it was really weird. Took a bus to Philly, got on a plane to Houston, and when I got on the ground there, I felt like I was supposed to be there the whole time. I spoke with the King Street Patriots that night, and then that began a partnership. I went back down there for the election day, and I was running around in the community after Quanell X. He's the leader of the New Black Panthers, and we were just like 5 minutes behind him, because we would get the phone call, we'd say, he's at the polling station, he's intimidating poll watchers, and we'd get in the car and we'd run over there, and by the time we get there, we'd missed him. So we got to one area, and it was Sheila Jackson Lee's district, and Sheila Jackson Lee had actually been there yelling at Quanell X to get out of the polling stations, and he wouldn't leave. So the Democrats can't even control this guy. So we started talking to the people outside, and they let us know that Quanell X and Sheila Jackson Lee and the rest of them didn't represent represent them. That's all they had. And we talked with them, and we talked to the people that had, because I don't know if you guys heard some of these stories, they were alleging 60s-style voter intimidation and racism and disenfranchisement of black, just because the King Street Patriots and True the Vote had the nerve to put poll watchers in these places where they hadn't seen conservatives in like 20 or 30 years. But Texas has an early voting period. And by the end of the early voting period, going into Election Day, the people that have looked at them in suspicion and wasn't sure what their intentions were, they were hugging them and laughing with them and going to lunch and just talking, because they realized they weren't there to disenfranchise them. They were there to show them how to do things correctly. And they thanked them and invited them back. Now, the Sheila Jackson Lees and the Quanell X's, of course, were on TV holding press conferences and yelling racism, but the actual people on the ground were getting along perfectly. So what does that once again tell you about America? That when you take out the divisive elements, we work together cohesively as a unit. And that's something that they do not want, and it scares them. So I am so glad I've had a chance to come here tonight to share this message with you, because the fight is just beginning. And I am willing to come out and train these groups. And we don't charge the Tea Party groups when we train them. We give them resources, we give them computer equipment, and we show them how to, because a lot of times, and no offense to the Republicans once again, but they keep that voter vault so close to the vest, they don't give it to the volunteers. You got to get an act of Congress to get in the voter vault. So we have created a best-in-class voter tool that we are giving to volunteers for free, and we're teaching them how to go out there and organize and take back these communities. So if you want us to come out, you just email me, Anita@bootsofliberty.com. We have communications team. We have True the Vote that will teach election integrity, and all of these conservative groups are working together to provide you guys with the tools, because we don't want to come in and take over. We just want to help train the people that are already working hard in your communities. So thank you for having me, and I'm honored to be here tonight.
The one phrase that comes to my mind after hearing Anita talk is that the truth will set you free.
That's good.